Sabiha. Navah.
Hello. Hi guys. Hi Nava. Hi
Hello.
Jessica. How are you guys doing?
Hello.
Hi. Good. How are you?
Good.
Good.
We're well.
gonna
How are
get-
you?
This has been a great day already. Let's go around for some quick introductions. I'll start with you, Jessica. Go ahead.
Yep. My name is Jessica Levenson. I'm the head of digital strategy and SEO at NetSuite. And I've been in SEO for a very, very long time at this point.
Welcome. Nava?
Hey, everybody. Navah Hopkins, Director of Paid Media at Hennessy Digital. Also, pet mom. You can hear my pups wrangling in the background. I apologize for that. And I am an avid PPC, Star Wars, and SMB champion. I absolutely love all three. So happy to answer any questions that you might have about that.
That is a great
Nice.
Venn diagram. I'm there with you on the intersection of those Star Wars and SMB more than PPC, but thank you for joining us. And Sabiha.
Hello everyone. My name is Sabiha Shakil and I am an independent consultant. I kind of knocked off my corporate world and started things on my own. And I'm apart from being a marketing professional and digital marketing professional, I'm a yoga teacher. I travel a lot, and I'm an avid learner, and I'm a mentor.
And you are going to share with us some insights about how to tackle the very specific challenges that brands have, that content strategies have, that marketers all over the world are all addressing together in a sort of a moment of unity around this challenge, around COVID, around the context of crisis management and being sensitive, being empathetic, getting your content strategy right in times of crisis. We can see your screen. Feel free to jump into presentation mode. And Sabiha, take it away.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So again, a COVID topic, but we're going to talk about COVID in terms of content marketing in times of crisis and getting our strategy right.
Can you maximize your screen?
Is it not?
Bring it back
Sorry.
up. Sharing your full screen.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
There we go.
Okay. So I'd like to start off with this little quote by Maya Angelou. And though I find this quote very apt for the current times, and it's very relevant even today, I'll just read it out. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And this is very relevant to what we all are going through as people, as businesses, as consumers today. And I'm using the same perspective throughout my presentation. So let's just define crisis. This is just from Wikipedia. I've just highlighted some keywords here. It's an event that happens abruptly. It impacts us negatively in terms of our economics, our political situations, our security. It's what we call an emergency event. And as content marketers, it's very important that we are part of the communication plan that is developed for crisis response during a crisis management process. And that's very critical. So when I refer to a crisis here, I'm not really referring to the disease or the pandemic in itself, but the impact the government preventive measures are having, like, for example, lockdowns or travel restrictions, physical distancing, even the importance of personal hygiene, etc., and how it has disrupted businesses and the lives of people. It's literally turned our lives upside down, right? So let's just take a look at some numbers. So during the lockdowns in the last couple of months, 2.8 billion people were on lockdown, on self-isolation. Okay, this is according to insider.com. In the US, according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, we see that only 7% of civilian workers have access to flexible workplace benefit. So they are only 7% can work from home, while others are not able to work during lockdowns. And essential services are very important during these times. These are the services that are helping us to survive in our day-to-day lives. For example, pharmaceutical industry, food, sanitation, hygiene, delivery services, etc. So let's look at how these measures have impacted consumer sentiment, consumer behavior and businesses. So with regards to consumer sentiments, we see that according to a study by Kantar in April 2020, we see that a quite interesting study. The result is that consumers are not really worried about the economic recession or health, but they're more worried about disruption and the impact of disruption, because it's at times of uncertainty and they don't know what it's going to lead to, right? And also the fact that they're under a lot of panic. The result of panic buying. Going into the superstores to buy your toilet papers, etc., because you don't know whether they'll be available in the future, right? So these are some interesting data on sentiments. Now, when we look at what consumers want from advertisers, right? They want us to help them to navigate the new normal, with a very positive perspective. So they want advertisers to be trusted to provide accurate information. There's you're online. There's a lot of fake news, a lot of fake facts, etc. So they want to be able to trust the advertisers, and they want them to be helpful in the new everyday life, be informative, and provide a positive outlook to everything that's happening, be encouraging. What they do not want is to exploit coronavirus to promote a brand. For example, hike up your prices during these times because the demands are so high. So now when we look at consumer behavior, and there's a study, again, the Kantar study, it says that 52% of consumers in 6 Asian countries spend more time at home. And what are they doing at home? They're getting on short video apps like TikTok. TikTok is on a rise in especially Asia, a lot of Asian countries. Video websites like YouTube. And they're also exploring new platforms out there. So it's a good opportunity to release a lot of new apps or platforms out there. Again, in terms of other parts of the world, we see that in the US, 50% increase in screen time. The French are favoring local products, so they're supporting local businesses so that to help them throughout the crisis. And globally, a study by Semrush said that retail website grew by 1.5 billion new visitors during the lockdowns. Okay, these are some really interesting figures here. Now, moving on, when we look at China, just comparing China, because they're the key, they're now recovering from the crisis. We see that in between February to January, there were 20% more time spent on smartphones during the lockdown. And the time spent was largely on short videos and mobile gaming. Mobile gaming having 44% increase in the time spent. And then when we go to the US, we see that when it comes to adopting digital sales channels, so this is when we talk about conversions, we say that there were 17% were first-time users. And 85% of these first-time users said they would continue using digital sales channels post-COVID. So it's a huge opportunity for revenue marketing in the future. B2B decision makers say their digital sales interactions are 2 times more important than ever before, than traditional sales interactions. So with regards to businesses have been disrupted like anything in the last three or 4 months. We see that they're completely redesigning contactless end-to-end customer journeys, because the need of the customer is to mitigate the transmission of diseases along the customer journey. So contactless and safe, right? That's the key word. So what businesses are doing, they're accelerating their digital transformations. They're reducing face-to-face, but increasing online interactions, right? So the communication with customers is still there, but they're reducing it face-to-face. These days it's all about cash to survive. So cash, and cash. And we're moving from, and one of the most important things that I've seen is that they've moved from being global to really local, and that to hyper local. So what are the implications for content marketers? So when we look at consumer sentiments, we understand that customers are anxious, they're emotional, they're scared. They're basically on the survival alert. They're trying to get through their basic needs. They want comfort, they want safety, they want trust. And as content marketers, I think when we're developing our content strategy, we really need to understand, okay, what is the right tonality we need to use, the messaging, the visuals. And these days, it's really about the storytelling. So we need to be educating, we need to be comforting, we need to be informative, and most of all, we need to build trust with our consumers. When we talk about the behaviors, again, it's all about the behaviors online, choosing the right channels, the right data, and the right analytics. We see personalized direct communication. So we've quite a few examples of CEOs communicating directly with consumers on social media, as well as through email, and telling them that we are here for you and don't worry. Really need to align new content. Businesses are adapting to the new normal by developing new products and services. So as content marketers, we need to be aware of what's happening. We need to know what are these products that are being released, and we need to ensure that whatever online content is out there is updated frequently, and to ensure that people are visiting our channels. We need to refine and rework the selling story. The selling story changes, and it changes frequently depending on what is the scenario during the crisis. And like what Kevin said in the previous session, working with sales is probably more important than ever before. Listening to customers and gaining insights and joining their sales calls is probably very important to understand what kind of communication needs to be developed. Social media responses are very important, because during a crisis, it's very likely that you may have a social media crisis. When consumers are anxious and they're panicking, and when they're angry, and emotional, they'll come on social media and create a crisis. So that is very important. Discounts are important, not only to drive conversions, but also to tell the customers that we understand your financial challenges, and we're here to help you. But for businesses, I think the key word here is go local, right? And businesses have been needing to revise their strategies to go hyperlocal, because especially in the COVID pandemic's time, and during the lockdowns, we have countries designating red, amber, green zones in districts or cities. So red being their highly restricted areas, green being the areas where you can do business. So local SEO plays a very important role here. And my personal experience has also been that, adapting your Google My Business pages to hyperlocal scenarios. What are the products and services that you can provide, as well as the adapting local pages. So sorry, this is a bit content heavy, but I just want to highlight a few channels here that are very important. Before that, the challenges that content marketers face is that contact centers, customer cares, there's slow response, there's no face-to-face, where the selling story changes almost very frequently during crisis. Our opportunities is really to enhance our digital efforts, transform marketing to revenue function. It's better to do that now than ever before. And really, as content marketers, how can we add value? We need to look at low-cost, impactful, and revenue-generating content that is backed by data. Mm-hmm. So what I'd like to focus on, a few channels that I'd like to suggest that have worked, is really looking at SEO. I know the SEO guys will be really happy here, but SEO and local SEO is probably the key when you're looking at hyperlocal scenarios and trying to survive in these scenarios. Like I said, revamping your local pages, your GMB pages, modifying the products and services that are available there, and the posts. one of the challenges is also managing the automatically closed listings. That Google, they automatically close your listings when you're for your local pages. So managing that, and really looking at how to review the keywords, relevant keywords. If you're looking at back to work, a lot of countries are opening up. So what is the keyword to use? Back to work, recovery program, return to work, and how are you going to use that in your solution that you provide to the customers? Another thing is email marketing. This has been really important as well, because during the COVID pandemic lockdown, the conversions are pretty low, but working with your existing customers and nurturing them during this time is even more important. Providing them crisis updates. You can use, they're quite responsive to surveys. Open rates for some of my email campaigns increased by 20% just by sending out surveys. Using, and really, even if they can't convert now, they will come back to you post-lockdown, because you are there to hear them, or you are there just to communicate with them during the lockdown. Another important channel is the chatbots. We see a lot of, because contact centers are half working or not working, a lot of people are resorting to chatbots and really upgrading your chatbots, FAQs, or if you're using AI chatbots, humanizing it more to create a more human response. Because just to make sure that they understand, to reassure your customers that we're here for you, and how can I help you? How can we help you in these times, etc. Social media is also very important, and in terms of really looking at local hashtags, as it is a hyperlocal scenario. So really identifying what are the key trending hashtags in those localities, and using even some of the social media bots, messengers, to drive conversions. What's worked is, for me, is Facebook polls, just to understand customer sentiments, because we are not able to face customers. We are not able to face our employees. Apart from getting online insights, we need to understand what's happening at the ground level and to our customers. So doing quick Facebook polls or any kind of polls is very good to understand what are the sentiments, and in that way we can adapt our content for that is relevant and relatable to customers. So moving on, content marketers in crisis management. So what do we need to do as content marketers, right? We need to work with the crisis management teams. We need to develop content, the external communication with the crisis management teams. If you're not part of that, suggest your marketing head or whoever it is to be part of that. We need to provide customer insights offline and online. So like Kevin said, you need to work with sales. And I totally agree with Kevin.
Yeah, that was great.
Yes, it's incredible. And I myself have participated in calls, like numerous calls, just to understand what's happening with customers, to understand their sentiments. Also looking at social listening tools, because only if you listen, you'll be able to shape your selling story better and develop content that is relatable to your customers. You also see what, forums like Quora and Reddit, they're saying, what people are saying there. There's a lot of stuff like, oh, how do I create a DIY disinfectant or etc. So there's a lot of stuff on Quora and Reddit about how customers are feeling, because do it yourself is also a trend that we see. A lot of people are creating their own disinfectants and hygiene products. As content marketers, be involved, so that, because during these times you'll need to release content like very frequently, and there's really no time for briefs. So just listen in and understand and just be involved. Be ready to revise your plans, and it's very critical that we understand customer sentiments when we're developing contents. So we need to be quick to understand, adapt, plan, develop, and execute and analyze. So a little bit, Andy, I'm going to reference you here. Okay. I like this study that Andy did about understanding how was the demand of services of agencies impacted by coronavirus. We see that there's a majority of them have been quite negatively impacted. though some have been positively impacted. But I say that I really suggest for agencies, because I've worked on both sides. I've been a customer as well as a sort of independent consultant. So I really would recommend that you need to be flexible to modify your contract terms to support your customers. You need to rapidly adapt to changing needs. Keep adding value to so that they remember you when the time passes.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like how you want consumers to remember you when the time passes and to come back to you. Similarly, we need to do the same thing. We need to monitor social media and be ready with a response plan. So just how businesses have crisis management plans, we as agencies, we also need to have our own contingency plans and have our own plans and be able to survive a crisis. What I also recommend is diversify your customer base so that you're in different sectors. That way you can get whichever sector is, let's say, opening up, in the next couple of weeks, you're for sure going to get a business out of there. So it's very good to diversify your sectors and just be proactive with your customers to provide daily analytics, trends, insights to customers. So
Thank you. Yes.
One more slide. So I like to end again by saying that consumers are going to remember how the brand made them feel. And I think as content marketers, we probably need to, the sooner we understand it, I'm sure we understand that, but our content needs to be relatable to what the consumers are going through.
Thank you. We have a lot of people asking for the sources and the content and the slides. We're going to make sure everyone has that. Of course, everyone gets all the recordings, everyone gets all the slides. Thank you, Sabiha. I've got a question. You mentioned sectors. I got a question about the sectors. Maybe I'll put this to the panel here, Navah and Jessica. It's from Marie Levine. Thank you for being with us all day, by the way, Marie. We love that you're still with us. It's a question about a specific sector, universities.
Okay.
What about universities? Content. I know some that are trying to figure out how to do virtual campus visits. How does content fit into because they have a cycle for enrollment and applications. Jessica, Navah, or anyone, any thoughts about how content marketing / SEO for universities?
I'll jump in, I guess.
Please.
So one thing I find super helpful when it comes to universities is remembering that there's set audiences. So this is a really good time to take a step back and do some persona mapping for not just the folks that you want to come attend your university, get enrolled in the program, but also the parents. On the paid side, I know paid is a dirty word in an SEO conference.
Fine.
There's actually quite a number of there's quite a number of audiences that specifically actually target people who are about to graduate soon. So if you're looking to get someone into your MBA program or your master's program, absolutely a great shot there. But then also looking at folks that are on the younger side. What I particularly encourage universities to do is go heavy on video. Sabiha made a great point about the kind of content we're consuming. And so any video pieces that we can do, YouTube just put out an amazing free resource, YouTube ad builder, or YouTube video builder, which will actually for free help you build 6-second and 15-second spots. So if you're struggling and you're like, I do not know how to generate video content that is compelling, that absolutely is a good shot. I'll also give one shout out on the content piece specifically. It is very daunting to fill out an application if it's not gamified. So as much as we can turn those long form fills, those long processes, if a gamified system, kind of like, good job, you got that bit of content in, good job, you got all your credentials in together. It's perfect.
Yeah, we just did a virtual campus tour for a client. And the key was to make sure that the 6-step process had a progress bar showing how far they'd made it, and to make sure that each step had a separate URL so that we could, in Google Analytics, get the funnel visualization report to see the drop off at each step. Jessica, we all just got a lot of content from Sabiha. What are your thoughts?
Sure. I think at the, her note there from Maya Angelou at the beginning, I think the focus on empathy first is super important. I would say selfishly as an SEO, my let me start first. My first focus is going to be making sure that my messaging everywhere has now been adjusted. I think one of the worst things we can do is allow things to move forward or a dominant theme to be around things like growth when people are panicked or concerned about safety. For me, I'm in B2B and I'm in-house, so I'm not with an agency. That's very real for me. In addition to that, from, like I was saying, a selfish perspective as an SEO, I do have to recognize that other people are not going to be able to create content during this time. So what can I be doing during that time? And that will include resources for my customers. My customers are individuals, but they're part of businesses. And I have to have an understanding of what their needs are and respond to that regardless of where I am, where I'm working. I think that's hugely important. And I think, you have to, like the presentation stated, you have to be ready to be nimble, but you also need to have both a long and short game. So you know what you're doing today, but you have some resources pouring into things for long-term goals for when we do recover, because this isn't forever.
Right.
It'll change.
Yeah.
That right there is a really important message. And especially if you're targeting like a university student, like remind people that there is the other side is out there. Why would you invest in school? Yeah. Have you guys seen this at all? The content's promoted on social, content performs on social, gets traction, likes, comments, shares, but then you get the one person who says, this is tone deaf. Why are you promoting this content on social media today?
Yeah.
I got that. And I felt my blood ran cold for a second thinking, oh no, was I insensitive? I feel terrible. How do you respond? And also more broadly, when is it okay to go back to normal social media marketing?
Yeah. So from my perspective, I think it's a baby steps, and the message starts to turn to when you're ready to reopen, or as you're starting to reopen, or for businesses that shifted when they go from making masks and things like disinfectant to going back to producing fashion or alcohol.
Right. Yeah.
They start to trickle that into their plans, but there is definitely some honesty behind the saying that, like, not too much too soon, and stay cognizant of where people are at. And if you do falter, because we're all human, that you take a step back and revisit maybe how quickly you're moving forward, but recognize that some businesses in your audience are going to be moving faster than other ones. And so you have to take that into consideration. I think this comes back to sentiment analysis again, and just being sure that you have a finger on the pulse, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, one thing that Sabiha said that I liked a lot was to do surveys where you're listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Webinars. Navah, were you going to add something?
One thing I'll throw out there. It's really important to take every bit of feedback that you're quote unquote tone deaf. Mm-hmm. If the majority of your interaction is very positive, and your brand loyalists get your brand, but an outsider who is outside of your zone says, hey, that's tone deaf, I take that with far less importance than someone who is part of my core brand. So what are you doing? Like, this is completely out of left field for you guys. Like, you're usually, I know you for this, and this. So it's one piece. But the other thing that you mentioned, Andy, that I think is actually really, a lot of brands get sucked into vanity metrics of the click-through rate, the engagement rate is really high. We have all of these beautiful views and visits to our site, but then the actual, not just revenue, but customer love, and albeit also profit, kind of gets sidelined. So I would encourage everyone that is looking at their metrics and they maybe have that one or two people saying, hey, this is tone deaf. first see if they're actually people, and whether they've been following you and paying attention to you, or whether they're kind of a rogue agent.
That's
But then the other is to see exactly. We're on the internet. We have trolls.
exactly.
But then also look and see, are you getting suckered into vanity metrics and you're running means and strategies that have a high engagement rate because they're clicky or because they're controversial, but you're losing the value, you're losing that brand equity.
Yeah. Focus on the human side, your most important audience. Don't overweight the tiny bit of negative. We all have that psychological bias, right? Loss aversion, whatever they call it. 10 seconds, guys. We're wrapping up. Tell us how to find you. Sabiha, where can we find you online?
Twitter at Sabiha Shakil, LinkedIn at Sabiha Shakil.
Thank you.
Thank
Navah?
you, guys.
Navah, where can we find you?
Yep, it's at Navah F. I'm the Ask the PPC for SCJ. So if you want to ask me a PPC question or ask me any question at Navah F, and then you can also email me, navah@hennessy.com, and LinkedIn, Navah Hopkins.
Very generous of you to share your email. You may hear from some people here. And Jessica.
Yeah, you can find me at Jessica N. Levenson on LinkedIn, and then Gorilla Girl on Twitter. And I'm happy to answer questions around SEO and content and social media.
Thank you so much, guys, for the very timely piece. These are all smart people. Go find and follow them. And if we missed your question, ask them online. We're not going anywhere. We're just running out of time here for this session. But thank you, guys. We're going to let you go. And we're going to welcome in the next session.
Good night.
Bye.
Brian, Judy, and Sarah are joining us for the next session, which is